Trading on African Export-Import Bank's depository receipts begins on the Stock Exchange of Mauritius. Platinum miner Lonmin expects full-year sales to be slightly above its prior forecast. Plus, Egyptian billionaire puts its interest in investing in the debt-laden Brazilian mobile carrier OI on hold. Hello and welcome. It's the last business day in the week. Thank you for joining us on Business Incorporated, coming to you live from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Chimezi Obi Iwawo. Let's get started now. We're beginning off with the markets. The positive trading recorded yesterday at the Nigerian stock market continued at intraday today, with the index up 0.64%, with Seplat Petroleum adding 22 naira 49 kobo to its share price, driving that overall index there. The JSE index in South Africa was also up 0.56%. Egypt's market was closed on Thursday for a public holiday and remains closed today for the weekend. Kenya was down 0.37% on Thursday. And in the Middle East, most stock markets there fell on Thursday, with Qatar falling for a third straight session to a new 5-year low. But shares in Kuwait telecommunications operator Zain jumped on a rumor that Oman Telecommunications might expand its stake in the firm. The Saudi index lost 0.36%, with the banking sector, which had been relatively robust this week, falling back. National Commercial Bank lost 1.2%. Qatar's index, which closed at a 5-year low on Wednesday, fell a further 0.26%. Banking and commodity-linked shares were again the main drags. Commercial Bank lost 0.6% and Gulf International Services fell 1.5%. The Dubai index gave up gains made earlier in the day to close 0.21% down. Dayat Development, which had jumped 3.1% the previous day, lost 1.6%. And in Abu Dhabi, the index dropped 0.4% as First Abu Dhabi Bank lost 1.5%. And to Europe now, stocks there were marginally lower in early trade despite positive sentiment in the U.S. Now let's see the news out of Europe today and how they are driving the market. Let's talk to Ulrich Bartz. Good afternoon, Ulrich. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hi.
Now, is the Spanish banking sector actually heading for the rocks? We've seen Spanish lender Banco Sabadell saying its headquarters will be moved out of Catalonia region, while CaixaBank is set to make a decision today on whether to move out of Spain. So what's happening?
I think that the people here in Frankfurt expect a declaration of independence for Catalonia. Probably nothing can stop that, but I think very few actually expect that Catalonia would leave Spain and thus leave the EU, leave the euro, with all the disadvantages that would entail. Banks making decisions to leave or pondering the decision to leave imminently. I think that shows the kind of damage that can be created if the people in Catalonia stick with their decision to leave Spain. Having said that, it's still a moment of uncertainty for the markets. The IBEX 35 in Madrid went down on that, and trading in Europe is very careful ahead of decisions here. Here in the DAX, it didn't prevent the DAX from reaching a new record high, so it's just shy of 13,000 points. It's since dropped back a little from these gains, but surely Catalonia is still the issue of the day, with not really all that many people thinking that the Catalonians indeed will go through with it.
Well, we'll wait till Monday to see what happens to Catalonians there. Now, next door in Italy, the state-rescued Monte dei Paschi announced plans to float a voluntary public offer to swap shares owned by former retail bondholders into senior debt portfolio. Now, what would this mean for the health of Monte shareholders and, of course, the government?
I think for the bondholders, it means that they have a slight improvement. And could you please Yeah, thank you. And it means for Montepaschi itself that it has, let's say, a more dependable base with its shareholders, because the government will take up more of the shares through this switch. And for the government, of course, it means that upping its shares even more. The bank is even more nationalized than it has been, and it remains a symbol for what many people here in Frankfurt in the financial market circles believe is wrong with Italy. It's a bank too big to fail, and the government is keeping it up with lots of billions, and this last move certainly fits into that picture of a banking sector that's in trouble, and that's a potential risk, a potential trouble for the Eurozone, probably for some time to come.
Now let's look across the Atlantic. U.S. employment reports is the biggest economic data on the radar today. Now, how much needle will this data move to the upside or downside? Well, depending on the numbers.
Right. Well, you can see both the upside and the downside. When you look at the DAX behind me, first reaction when the numbers came at just exactly about 7 minutes ago, it went down, and then now it's jumping up a little. The market is unsure of how to interpret the data. The expected number for the number of new jobs being created in the U.S. economy for the month of September was 90,000, and the result is indeed very surprising. It's minus 33,000, so 33,000 jobs were lost. But already ahead of the result, people were saying, well, whatever the slant, whatever the direction these numbers take, it's sure to be influenced by the horrendous effect that the hurricanes had on the American economy. And while I don't know yet whether that's indeed the reason for this, these numbers coming back so much, it does sound like a very plausible explanation, prima vista, if you will. Jobless rate is also down. That's positive, perhaps a reason why the market then reconsidered and went up a little. And U.S. GDP coming in for the third quarter at plus 3%, also beating forecasts. So the United States actually providing a very good environment for healthy stock market prices here.
Well, thank you very much, Ulrich, for that information. I will be discussing that further with my colleague in New York. So enjoy the rest of the weekend.